December 8, 1963, 9:50 p.m. A 19-year-old college student is sitting in a hotel room at Lake Tahoe waiting for a delayed dinner delivery when two armed men force their way inside. Within minutes, he's blindfolded, bound with tape, and driven away into the California mountains in the middle of a snowstorm. His name is Frank Sinatra Jr. His father is the most powerful entertainer in America. Over the next 54 hours, Frank Sinatra would do something he had never done before in his career. Step away from the spotlight completely, sit by a phone in a hotel room, and negotiate directly with kidnappers for his son's life. What happened next became one of the most closely followed criminal cases of the decade, and the trial that followed exposed details that shocked even the FBI agents working the case. This is the full, documented story of the Sinatra kidnapping. In December 1963, Frank Sinatra Jr., then 19 years old, was working as a singer with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, a tribute act performing at Harrah's Lake Tahoe, the same band his father had once sung with decades earlier. It was one of his first major professional engagements as he tried to build a music career of his own. On the evening of December 8th, Sinatra Jr. was in his hotel room at the Harrah's Lodge with his roommate, trumpet player John Foss, waiting for room service. According to court testimony, when a knock came at the door, Foss assumed it was the delivery and opened it. Instead, two armed men, Barry Keenan and Joe Amsler, forced their way inside. The men bound Foss and took Sinatra Jr., blindfolding him and marching him out to a car through a snowstorm. He was driven roughly 200 miles to a house in Canoga Park, California, where he was held for the next 2 days. News of the kidnapping reached Frank Sinatra Sr. that same night while he was in Reno, Nevada, preparing for his own performance. According to documented accounts, Sinatra immediately canceled his engagements and flew to Los Angeles, where he began working directly with the FBI out of a hotel suite that became the operational center of the investigation. The kidnappers made contact shortly after, demanding a ransom of $240,000. What followed was an extraordinarily tense negotiation process. Sinatra, one of the most recognizable men in the country, had to conduct multiple phone calls with the kidnappers from payphones around Los Angeles, following their specific instructions to avoid being traced, all while FBI agents worked in the background trying to coordinate a safe resolution. Court records later confirmed that Sinatra personally delivered the ransom money himself, following a series of directions passed to him via payphone locations across the city, a level of personal risk rarely taken by a public figure of his stature. After the ransom was paid, Frank Sinatra Jr. was released near his family's home in Bel Air, blindfolded and disoriented but physically unharmed. According to his own later testimony, he was released along a residential street and had to walk to a nearby house to call for help. The relief was immediate, but the case was far from over. FBI agents had already begun tracing leads, and within days, all three kidnappers, Barry Keenan, Joe Amsler, and a third accomplice, John Irwin, were identified and arrested. The majority of the ransom money was recovered. What followed in court became almost as sensational as the kidnapping itself. During the trial, the defense for Barry Keenan attempted an unusual strategy, arguing that the kidnapping had actually been staged as a publicity stunt, allegedly orchestrated with Sinatra Jr.'s knowledge to boost his fledgling singing career. This claim was firmly and repeatedly denied under oath by Frank Sinatra Jr. himself, and it was ultimately rejected by the jury. Court records from the trial confirm that all three men were convicted on kidnapping charges. Barry Keenan, identified as the mastermind of the plot, received the most significant sentence, though it was later reduced on appeal due to psychiatric evaluations presented during sentencing. The case remained a significant news story throughout 1963 and 1964, covered extensively by national newspapers and television broadcasts, largely because of the Sinatra family's fame and the dramatic nature of the ransom negotiation. For Frank Sinatra Sr., The kidnapping was documented by those close to him as one of the most harrowing experiences of his life, despite his public image of control and confidence. Biographers have noted that in the years following the incident, Sinatra became notably more protective of his family's privacy and safety. For Frank Sinatra Jr., the incident cast a long shadow over the early years of his music career, with the kidnapping often overshadowing his professional work and press coverage for years afterward. He continued performing for decades, eventually becoming his father's musical conductor later in life, a role that connected them professionally for many years. The case remains, to this day, one of the most well-documented celebrity kidnapping cases in American legal history, studied in true crime retrospectives due to the unusual combination of a major FBI investigation, direct celebrity involvement in a ransom negotiation, and a trial defense strategy that shocked the courtroom. 54 hours, a snowstorm, a ransom, a father negotiating for his son's life outside the spotlight he'd spent decades commanding. The 1963 kidnapping of Frank Sinatra Jr. remains one of the most dramatic true stories in Hollywood history. Not because of rumor, but because every detail is on the record. It's a reminder that behind the fame, the awards, and the legendary status, Frank Sinatra was, above everything else, a father facing every parent's worst fear. In our next episode, we're covering another single defining moment in Sinatra's story. If you're enjoying these deep dives into real events from classic Hollywood history, subscribe. There's a lot more to uncover.